Welcome dear student for HSC online lecture initiative taken by Shet Vidya Mandir English High School and Junior College of Science and Commerce. I am Ms. Ragini Singh, Assistant Lecturer of Biology, and today we are going to start with the new chapter, that is Molecular Basis of Inheritance. In this chapter and in this module we are going to study in detail how the DNA was actually identified and discovered as a main important lead in the inheritance. So before I start, I request you all to please be seated with your book, pen and pencil, write down today's date and take down the notes properly. We'll start with the Griffith experiment. The scientist Griffith has actually played a very important role in determining this experiment and concluding that DNA is responsible for the transforming principle. So let's understand what Griffith has did. Now Griffith basically worked with the two strains of bacteria which causes the pneumonia. Now this bacteria, that is the Streptococcus, I'll write here, that is the Streptococcus pneumoniae, has two strains. One is R type, another is S type. Now when you talk about the R type, this indicates rough strain, whereas S type indicates the smooth strain. So under the microscope, if you observe this bacteria, since it is Streptococcus, coccus always means circular, so this bacteria looks somewhat this circular sort of structure. So this is smooth strain. If you observe, it is completely smooth, no roughness on the surface. But when you observe the rough structure of the Streptococcus, the surface is somewhat rough sort of structure. Now why this was there? Reason was that this smooth strain had a covering of the polysaccharide, whereas this rough strain did not consist of any covering, any coating. When it was experimented, it was found that our strain was avirulent. Avirulent means absence of virulence. It means it is not dangerous, whereas when you talk about the S strain, it is virulent. It means it is dangerous and it can cause the disease. Now what did this Griffith did? Griffith actually considered the organism, and that is the mouse. He took this mouse and he started with the experiment. See, he took the four types of the mouse. I can say that he actually concluded his experiment in the four ways. In the very first mouse, what he did, he actually injected the rough strain, that is second type, into this mice, or rather I can say to the mouse. In the second mouse, he injected smooth strain third type. This second, third actually denotes the type. Now when he injected the rough strain of this Streptococcus pneumonia, he waited for some time and he saw that mouse is alive. It means this conclusion that the R type is avirulent is almost right. But when did he see the next type, that is a smooth strain? When he injected the smooth strain of this virus, as in this diagram also you can see, it is very smooth, covering is not very rough. The mouse died. And in the third type, what he did, he was now more interested into this smooth strain itself. So what he did, he took this smooth strain and he heat killed them. It means he took a test tube and he put the smooth strain into that and he heated them so that the strain, this bacteria which is causing the death, will die. And once it was heat killed and again injected into the mouse, mouse was alive. It means the Griffith said that the heat can kill this bacteria and thus not allowing the mouse to die. Finally what he did, he took this rough strain, and this heat killed smooth strain. Now heat killed smooth strain over here, the mouse is alive. In the rough strain also, if you see, again the mouse is alive. It means if he is injecting in this mouse, the mouse should be surviving, but to his very surprise he saw that the mouse was dead. He was very surprised. So to his conclusion, what he said, that something was there in this S type, something was there in this S type that has converted the R type into the S type, because S was already dead, R was alive. So something was there in this S type that has converted this R type into the S type, and thus R causing the death of this mouse, and he named them as transforming principle. And he named them as transforming principle. Griffith was not at all been aware ki what is this transforming principle about. He just said that there is something responsible, and he gave the name as transforming principle. So in the Griffith experiment, this word is very important, that is the transforming principle. And once the Griffith concluded with his experiment, there were other scientists who actually developed the interest, and they were very curious to know what this transforming principle is there, whether it is DNA, RNA, proteins or something other. So let's see what are the other experiments of this scientist. The next scientists were Avery, McCarty and MacLeod's experiment. I repeat, it is Avery, McCarty and MacLeod's experiment. What did they do? They actually took the R strain and heat killed S strain. R strain is already the non-virulent and heat killed, which does not cause the mouse to die. And then they took this protease enzyme and the DNase enzyme. Now in this case, if you see, the mouse was dead. It means when they took the protease enzyme, they killed the protein. But R strain got converted into the S strain and mice was not able to survive. But when they use this DNase, that is, it is going to kill the DNA, and once they took this DNA and DNA was killed, they found that mouse was alive. Now once this mouse was alive, what does this means? That the transforming principle was not protein. Even they worked with RNA, that is RNase. It was not even RNA, it was actually the DNA. So this was the Avery, McCarty and MacLeod's experiment, stating that yes, the transforming principle is nothing but DNA. But still the question mark was raised, and there were another set of scientists who came into picture. And this another scientists were Hershey and Chase, and they had their own experiment, that is Hershey-Chase experiment. This Hershey-Chase experiment, they actually worked with the bacteriophage. Now this bacteriophage is very interesting, because this bacteriophage is something that kills the bacteria. Now this bacteriophage has two parts. One is the capsid, that is the head, and another is this leg, that is the tail portion. They took these two bacteriophage, and one was labeled with sulfur and another was labeled with phosphorus. They allowed to infect the bacteria. This bacteria is nothing but it is E. coli. They actually allowed to infect the bacteria, here also as well as here. So first step was infection. The first step was infection. The second step is blending, that is the nucleic acid material has inserted into this bacteria, and third step is the centrifugation. There was centrifugation which took place, and what did they see in case of the sulfur? That no sulfur was detected in the cells, but the sulfur was detected in the supernatant. It means this did not enter, the sulfur did not enter its genetic material. Whereas in the second one, they saw that phosphorus was detected in cells. It means the phosphorus entered this genetic material and no phosphorus was detected in this supernatant. So from this, it was very clear cut to be known that your DNA consists of the phosphoric acid and the phosphorus entered the genetic material. And this they concluded the Hershey-Chase experiment, that the main transforming principle is the DNA, and that was basically and finally proved. When this was eventually proved, then the question started arising, what is DNA? How is the DNA? How it is been basically situated? See, if you talk about this DNA, your DNA is completely, you can say 2.2 meters in length, whereas your nucleus is only 10 raised to the power minus 6. It means that if you have a very small nucleus and your DNA is very big, how it is going to fit into this nucleus? The one common sense that you can use is that if you talk about the flying of kite, that is tied to the string. Now string is very big, large, but since it is winded, it is coiled, it is easily to hold it. Similarly is the stitching thread that we stitch the clothes and everything. The thread is so big, but it is coiled into that rubber like tubing, because of which it is coiled and perfectly placed. So similarly is the packing of DNA. Now what happens in this packing of DNA? See here, circular unfolded chromosomes. See, if you talk about, this is the circular unfolded chromosomes, and if you see, it is 350 micron. Second step, the folded chromosome. If you look at this diagram, it is coiled and it is folded. Since it is folding and it is coiled, it is taking less space, 30 micron. Moreover, if you see over here, 2 micron, super coiled. This was coiled, this is super coiled folded DNA. If you look at this, this is the partially coiled DNA. See, the only purpose is that the more it is coiling, the more it is actually taking the form of the proper stabilizing structure. Let's understand more about the packing of DNA. Now, this packing of DNA takes place around this structure called as nucleosome. This is the octamer, H1, H2, H3 and H4. That is the 4 ahead and 4 at the back. And this H1 is the linker protein. Always remember, this H1 is the linker protein. The DNA is actually coiled in this form. That is, the DNA will come like this. It is coiled, again coiled, and then it leaves. It means it actually takes the one complete turn, and the next turn is only 3/4. It means 1/4 of the circle is left. This is 1/3 of the complete turn. And if you look under the microscope, it is looking like a bead and string arrangement. Bead and string arrangement like this. And with this nucleosome, it is perfectly coiled and the packing of DNA takes place. See, this is the structure. This is the nucleosome, this is the linker protein. Beads on string arrangement. Here the chromatin fibers stretched during preparation for electron microscope, revealing linker DNA between the nucleosome codes. This is the chain of nucleosome forming 10 to 11 nanometer. Look at this unit, nanometer thick fiber. And this model is called as the solenoid, forming 30 nanometer thick fiber. This is how the coiling and the packing of DNA basically takes place. Here you can see the linker DNA. This was once asked in the MCQ. Linker DNA varying in length from S to 114. This is from 8 to 114 nucleotide pairs, and the nucleosome core, that is the central part, 146 nucleotide pairs of DNA wrapped as 3/4 turns around an octamer of the histones. Clear? So this is the packing and the stability or stabilized structure of the DNA around the nucleosome. DNA replication. Now when you talk about, it is conservative, semi-conservative and dispersive. Now when you talk about the conservative mode of replication, see what it is conservative. Here you can see this is blue color, here you can see it is red color, and if I centrifuge and I carry the experiment forward, I will come to know that blue band is separated and red band is also separated. It means both of them are conserving themselves. Now when you talk about the disperse, you can see blue, red, blue. It means, and here you can see it's intermingled, that is it is mixed, it is dispersed between each other. Semi-conservative, you see, so it is one strand is of blue color, another is of red color. It means both have conserved themselves semi, that is in the halfway, and this ultrafugation is done in the cesium chloride. In that only you can see this band sort of structure. The most real and authentic semi-conservative replication of DNA is to be proved. So in this module we are going to study about the semi-conservative mode of replication. How does this semi-conservative mode of replication takes place? See, we know that DNA is of two strands, 5 prime to 3 prime and 3 prime to 5 prime. If you look over here, 5 prime to 3 prime, and second is this. So they both are parallel but in opposite direction. So now to simplify, I am placing this as in a straight way so that we understand in a better way. Now see, this is 5 prime to 3 prime and this is 5 prime to 3 prime. Now we'll start from this strand first, this one. The original strand is called as the parental strand. The original strand is called as the parental strand, whereas their parallel strand, that is nothing but this one, is the new strands. Now what happens in this leading strand, if you see, this is the 5 prime is over here, and this is the 3 prime. There is an important enzyme called as polymerase. Now this polymerase always works in 5 prime to 3 prime direction. It means this is the 3 prime. So here the polymerase enzyme which is going to come will start from 5 prime to 3 prime. That's why the arrow is been pointing this side. And once this polymerase will come, it will start adding the complementary base pair. See, thymine will go with adenine with 2 hydrogen bonds, but G will go with C with 3 hydrogen bonds. Wherever there is C and G, there is always the 3 hydrogen bonds. And here the formation of strand will take place very fast, and that's why it is called as leading template. And this is the new strands which is formed. Whereas if you talk about this lagging strand, or you can say this lagging template, any one strand on which the new strand is synthesized is called as the template. This is 5 prime to 3 prime. Here you require RNA primer. Here you require RNA primer, and this RNA primer is going to synthesize the new strand. That is, this is 5 prime to 3 prime. This is 5 prime to 3 prime. This is 5 prime to 3 prime. And this fragment is called as the Okazaki fragment. Since they are being synthesized in part by part, that's why they are called as the Okazaki fragments after the scientist discovered it. Since here that formation is taking very fast, it is called as leading template, and here the synthesis taking slow, that's why it is called as lagging template. At the end, the RNA primer is removed and it is joined by an enzyme called as ligase. It is a molecular glue. That's why the strand of the leading is called as the continuous, and on the lagging is called as the discontinuous, because it is forming in this strand way, like this and like this. So this is the semi-conservative model of replication, where you can see one original strand, one new strand, one original strand and one new strand. I hope this was very clear to you, and this is very, very important. Transcription and translation. Now these are the two methods rather I can say, which actually denotes the step to protein synthesis. Say in our body everything is the protein. Now this protein has to be converted from DNA. So DNA, it will get converted into RNA, and from RNA it will get converted to proteins. Now to be very specific, this is mRNA. DNA to mRNA is called as transcription, and mRNA to protein is called as translation. Always remember, this DNA to mRNA take place in nucleus, whereas mRNA to protein synthesis, it takes place in the cytoplasm. Now what this transcription and translation actually takes place? So we'll start with the transcription. The very first step of transcription is to transcribe something. So in this transcription, this is the structure of the DNA, but obvious if you require the DNA, and from that DNA there is a newly synthesized RNA. So this is the DNA, this is 5 prime to 3 prime, and second is 3 prime to 5 prime. On this DNA, if you see, the very first enzyme that comes into picture is the RNA polymerase. This is RNA polymerase, and this is the template strand. Fine. And on this template strand, so the strand which is from 3' to 5' in orientation, that strand is considered to be the template. The reason behind that is that because the RNA polymerase always works in 5' to 3' direction. Once the RNA polymerase is coming, there is a bubble formation which takes place in the DNA, and whatever base pair is there of the DNA will be pairing with the adenine. So always remember, adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine. These are the base pair of DNA. When it comes to RNA, everything remains the same. That is, adenine will remain with adenine, guanine, cytosine. In RNA, thymine is not there. In case of thymine, it is replaced by uracil. So thymine you cannot see. Instead of thymine, there is uracil which is actually going to be placed. So this polymerase keeps on adding this base pair, and you have a newly synthesized RNA, and this RNA is actually the mRNA, which is called as the messenger RNA. Here you can see the RNA DNA hybrid. Here the unwinding of DNA takes place as this polymerase is moving forward till the time it is getting a stop signal, a start signal and stop signal. The time it is getting the stop signal, the mRNA is newly synthesized and it will be released from the nucleus and it will enter to the cytoplasm. Now let's understand this transcription. One more important point: if this mRNA, the mRNA which is newly synthesized, if it is in case of prokaryotes, that is the simplest, and then the no modification is required. If this transcription, if you are talking about the mRNA which is in the prokaryote, then the mRNA requires no modification. But if the transcription is of the eukaryotes, then it has to undergo certain modification, because till the time it is not considered to be the matured. The very first modification is capping. You have to put the cap of methyl guanosine triphosphate at 5' end. The second, if you talk about, is the splicing. See, introns, that is the introing part, is actually the part which we do not require. It is only present for no use. The intron has to be removed, and the intron is removed by the splicing way, and only thing that is left is the exon. So via this splicing model or spliceosomes, the intron is removed and the exon is joining, and finally you have the poly A tail, that is the adenyl group at the end, continuous A poly A adenyl tail. So what at the end you are getting is the capping at the 5', and then in the center you have only the exons and then the poly A tail, and this is called as the messenger RNA, or you can say the mRNA. So this is important with respect to the transcription. Now let's test your understanding. What is central dogma of protein synthesis? It is DNA to mRNA, mRNA to protein. And your MCQ, Griffith worked on which organism? He worked on streptococci. Your next question, translation occurs in cytoplasm. Question is, translation occurs in, and the option should be B and not A. Your third question is, transcription is the transfer of genetic information. Transcription is the transfer of genetic information from option C. See, now there are two options are given, DNA to RNA and DNA to mRNA. You will consider the option C, that is DNA to mRNA. Take down your assignment. Describe various briefly steps of protein synthesis. In this you will explain in detail about transcription. Translation we are going to study in the next module. Explain semi-conservative mode of replication. For this you are going to refer your 12th standard textbook. I hope this module was very clear to you all. We'll again come back with the module of the same chapter. Thank you so much.